Hello everyone, today I'm gonna teach you how to make an attachable entity attached to a player. So I made this video in response to a comment I read from Drew. So he was asking how to use a snippet that's provided on the documentation Horizon provides, but he got a little bit confused, and for me too, when I first started, the documentation wasn't as simple as it seemed to be. So today I'm gonna write a similar version to what the documentation has, and I'm gonna go through and explain what I'm doing, everything. Also note, this is not a TypeScript video. I have other videos that teach you how to do TypeScript, but in this part I'm gonna be going in a fast pace and writing the actual code, but I'll also explain what I'm doing and what each line does. So without anything further to do, let's jump right in. So from last video, we've already created a trigger that listens to when a player enters, so there's no reason to create it again. So I'm gonna just open the script that I've already created, and I'm gonna show you what it does and how to add stuff to it. Okay, so it's as simple as this. So basically, when the game starts, we're gonna listen to an event on that trigger, because this script is connected to this trigger. So we're gonna listen to an event that's called callblocks.onPlayerEnterTrigger. So this is the event we're listening to when the player enters trigger. This is provided by Horizon. Okay, so after we listen to that, we're gonna call a method and give it a parameter or input of player. And then this method, I've created this method, it's called onPlayerEnterTrigger. So when we enter a trigger, it's gonna call this method, and anything we want to run when we enter the trigger, we're just gonna put it over here. And by the way, if you write 2 /, that's a comment. Okay, so to attach an attachable entity to ourselves or to a player, we actually need the attachable entity. So let's go to the system. Let's go to the build shapes, and then let's get a cube. And then we just need to make it attachable. So we're gonna scroll down in the properties panel on the right, and then under avatar attachable, we're gonna set that to anchor. You can also set it to sticky. I haven't played with that over here, but let's set it to anchor. Okay. Also, let's turn off the collidable, because if it's still collidable, it's gonna do crazy stuff. So after we disable the collidability and we set it as attachable, now we need a reference of this object in our script. So to do that, we're gonna go back to the script, and then in the props definition, we're gonna, okay, I've already added one. Okay, so I'll show you how to add one again. So to add an object, I'm gonna copy this line. So to copy this line, I'm gonna put the cursor on the line, and then I'm gonna press Alt Shift and then down arrow once to copy that line down. And then now that we have a copy, I'm just gonna edit the name of this variable. This way we can have another slot underneath our object. I'll show you in a bit. So for this one, I'm just gonna call it object. I would recommend you call it something else. I'm just calling it this way because this is just a tutorial and I'm teaching you. So it doesn't matter what we call it really, but when you go into bigger games and bigger projects, object is not specific enough. And then we can save that with Ctrl S. And then if you go to the trigger itself, you can see that there's now an empty slot that you can reference and connect an object to. So we basically need to connect this object. So this object is the primitives cube geometry. So let's go back to the trigger, and then we're gonna grab this object from the hierarchy panel to this slot over here. And now we have a reference to this object. So we're gonna go back to the script, and then now we can use this object. So to reference this object in our script, we need to access it through the props definition. So we need to write this dot props, and then it's gonna show. So this dot props dot, in our case, it's the object one. It's the one that we just connected. Okay. And if you know any TypeScript, you know that we need to make sure that the object is valid or it's defined, because for example, if you forget to connect the object in the trigger, you won't have any reference to that object. So technically, this won't be defined. It's going to be undefined. But since we connected it, it's defined. But TypeScript is all about type safety. So we just need to make sure that it exists. So we're going to just write if dot props dot object. Okay, so we're just making sure that this is defined. If this is not defined, then this piece of code won't run at all. Because if this piece of code runs and it's not defined, it's gonna cause us an error. So we don't need that. We don't want any errors in our code. So let's go up top. Okay, and then over here after we've okay, so just in short, we test if this is defined. If this is defined, then we're gonna run this piece of code over here, and the piece of code is over here. We're gonna, okay, this is gonna be the actual piece of code that's gonna attach the attachable entity to the player. So what we will do is we're gonna start by getting the object, which is this .props.object. That's the cube that we created. In your case, when you're making the game, the object is gonna be like the variable that you're gonna attach to the player. So .object, and now we need to tell TypeScript that this is an attachable entity, because by default it's just an entity, it's just an object, but we need to tell Horizon that this is attachable. So to do that, we're gonna press dot and then as, and then there's something called attachable entity. And then when you write that, now TypeScript knows that this is an attachable entity, so it has like more features than just a regular entity. So we know that it can be attached to a person, so we can press dot, and then now we have the actual function or the method that attaches to that entity. So it's called attach to player. And then after we attach to player, you can open two parentheses, and then as you see over here, it takes in the player you're gonna attach this object to, and then it takes in another parameter called anchor. It's a type of attachable player anchor. So here's what you're gonna write. You're gonna write player, and then we're gonna write comma. So this player is gonna refer to the player that entered the trigger. So when we enter the trigger, for example, it's gonna attach something to us. And then for the other parameter, it takes in an anchor, an attachable player anchor. So basically this tells the code where you're gonna attach it, to the head or to the torso, for example. So for this, we're just gonna write attachable player anchor, and then we're gonna press dot to access the different properties, and then it depends on what you wanna attach it, and it depends on your game. In our case, let's attach it to the head. Okay, and then let's end that with a semicolon. And then this is all you need to know to attach an attachable entity to a player. This is the main code that you need to write. Okay, the rest of the code is just like to set up stuff and to connect to the trigger basically. And that's just all code that was for the trigger from last video. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, and that's basically it for now, but we're gonna like deattach it again. So let's test that and let's learn how to deattach it after that. So let's save. And then if you come over here, just make sure one more time that you have the object attached, because if you don't have it attached, it's not gonna work. And trust me, I've got a lot of headache from forgetting that. Also, in the future, I might do a tutorial on how to make a script that tells you if you forgot to attach something. Let me know if you want to learn how to do that in the comments. So we're gonna restart the world, and then we're gonna enter. And then now if we enter, we get the cube actually attached to our head, and that's pretty cool in my opinion. So we need to learn how to deattach it first. So similar to the attaching, we have a detach function. So I'm gonna copy that by pressing Alt, Shift, and down arrow, and then let's delete this section. Okay, the method, it's called .detach, and then just open parentheses, and then it doesn't take anything. You don't have any inputs inside. So this is basically just deattach this object from the player. So basically if you run this, okay, since we have it when the player enters the trigger, it attaches and then deattaches. If we run it right now, it's gonna go to the player, it's gonna attach, and it's gonna deattach really fast because we have them like beside on top of each other. So let's try that. I don't see where this might be useful, but in most cases you won't do that. I'm just writing that and showing you that just so you can learn more. So wait, and then do you see how it attaches and deattaches real fast? So it attaches and then deattach. So basically here are the two main functions to attach and deattach attachable entities. So attach to player and deattach from player. That's basically it for the attaching part. And just for fun, if you wanna see what would happen if you left the collidability, it would go crazy. because it's gonna keep colliding with itself. So if you go to the cube and you turn on the collidability and you preview, you can see, oh, I forgot that the attach in the script. So let's disable that by commenting it out. And also this is not necessary. This is, I'm just having fun over here. So preview. Oh, the script still haven't saved the progress yet. So let's give it a second. Okay, see what's happening? Horizon is going crazy. That would be a fun game to play. I'm just joking. Don't do that. Okay. I'm gonna end the tutorial over here. Hope you learned something new, and if you enjoyed this video and learned something, please leave a like down below and write a comment if you want me to show you how to do something in Horizon Worlds, because I really enjoy that. Thank you for watching.